Welcome to this edition of Strata Originals podcast. Today, we have Kevin Johnson, who is the CEO of WPP Media and president of WPP in Canada. So, welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time today. My first question to you is, what point in your life did you decide you wanted to become a leader? Or did you?
That okay, that requires me to go back a bit. At what point did I think about leadership? I think that's a really interesting because when I go back to it, obviously back into the career, I think it was actually when, well, 2 points I would say. One is, there's this real interesting story that I share with folks about a when I first got introduced to the idea of being in media and advertising. It was really the first time where I identified what a passion or I identified the opportunity to make a career. I gravitated to it. And I wrote in my yearbook, my high school yearbook, you know how they always talk about like, what are you going to do when you're an adult and all these things, and you made these like grand manifestations. My manifestation was I wanted to rule the advertising world. And so I literally have it in my yearbook about the desire. I mean, I'm not ruling the advertising, obviously, but it did speak to my sudden desire to be in advertising and to be a leader in advertising. And so I think that that's really interesting that I can show my kids, which I have, what I was thinking my last year of high school and then look at where I am today. And so for me, that was the kind of the first desire for leadership, and here I am.
So was that something you thought of because you had to fill it out for the yearbook, or was it there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what happened the year before really set up that my writing, that manifestation, that projection into life. And it was the year before I had seen a VHS tape about it was called The Power of Advertising. And it talked about the influence of advertising on consumers. And that is the thing where, I talk about the heavens opening up in a English media class, one that I quite frankly didn't attend much of. But there I was, and it was, I want to do that. And so that kind of led me. That was the point where I was like, I finally know what I want to become when I grow up. And so that's the kind of the starting of this journey that I've been on, knowing exactly that it was advertising that I wanted to be home for the next few decades.
Interesting. Because, a lot of people write that and it's like, I don't know, you're how old, 17, 18 when you write that? And it's like,
Yeah, it
how do you
was.
how do you know what you want to be, like industry wise necessarily, right? Like, I don't know. I think I put something crazy like, I don't know, I'll be in Hollywood and you'll see me on the big screen just because I was into theater. So,
Uh,
you know,
yeah, I mean, I wrote it. I know that I had for the first time. I was struggling at that time. Look, I wasn't a very good teenager at all. I didn't lean very heavily into school prior to that, and that changed. That having that experience and being exposed to advertising and the concept of doing it for as a career, it really it started my jets, man. I went from being a 50 average student to making the honor roll, and it was I believe that it was that that idea of knowing what you wanted to do and kind of focusing everything behind that on the reason why I was able to write that in the book. Because I knew that was it for me. And I know that's rare. So I consider myself very blessed and grateful for being and understanding what it is that I wanted to go after.
Yeah. And did you have teachers that affected you?
I had teachers that affected me positively and negatively. You know, Again, during that turnaround time for me, where I started leaning in to school, I met a an English teacher called Miss. Her name is Miss Byzantine, and the first couple of days of meeting her, it was a little rough. We had to establish rules, and she clearly, very quickly, um, let me know uh, who was boss. I think she sent me home on the first day. I recall just because of I wasn't dressed properly because I felt like I didn't have to. But they let me know what the deal was in that situation. But the thing that struck me is I was exposed for the first time in education. I was exposed for the first time a really good balance between uh, respect and discipline. And it was no, we have rules that you're going to abide by, discipline, and the respect was you have the potential to be so much better and to do so much better in school, and we expect better of you because you can and should do better. And that for me, that feeling was a part of the I recalibrated the expectations that I had of myself in school, and that's how I kind of got started to increase the grades and really begin to pursue education versus what I had been doing beforehand, which was just occasionally going. And I think, on the negative side, and this is kind of a reminder to us on how words can affect people, is I've had, teachers that, you know, commented that I was going to be a drug dealer and nothing more than that when I grew up. And I think that for me was also a different type of fuel.
Yeah.
Um, because, now being several years out of high school, I still remember his name. I still remember his words. And I look forward to a day that I'm able to share with him that he was slightly off base. But I appreciated the words because uh, negative words are fuel for me.
Yeah. Although not everybody reacts the same way as you, right?
Agreed. And that's why we gotta realize how those type of words can kill dreams and affect people greater than what we think.
Yeah. Uh, Teachers and anybody that, is in the position of teaching us or in a position of being helping to guide us, whether it's teachers or counselors or someone in the community, have to be really aware of what they say, especially to young people. And
Yeah, I agree. And I think it also rolls up even further than that, which is what is the environment that we're creating in our schools and how are we putting the teachers in the best environment and mindset to educate and all of that stuff as well. So I have a really good story about a teacher who mentored me and got me going, and then others that got me going in other ways, and you try and balance those out.
yeah. Well, I never had a teacher that was negative, but I had teachers who were really positive that, it fuels you in a way that you want to make sure you prove them right in their belief in you.
And that was, I think that was part of the effect that Miss Byzantine had on me, where it kind of felt like I didn't want to let her down.
Yeah.
And that's a good feeling.
Have you ever told her?
So, we had a brief conversation, but I feel like, this is kind of the age where you kind of go back and you have a proper conversation with her, but you also, one day I'll go back to that school and let the students know how much of an impact the school and the teachers had on me and where I was. And certainly if I came from where I was and I was able to do some of the things that I projected, that definitely they can too. It's a good story. It's a good story.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
A great
Yeah.
story. So, what was the first step in your journey? Like, what was the first realization about your leadership skills?
So when I think about realization as it relates to my leadership and kind of the path of leadership, I think about one of the first roles that I had in the industry was within the WPP network. And I was a young, up and coming professional. And I, at some point, left because, that is, part of the journey within our industry. You go to other agencies and you climb that ladder.
Mhm.
Um, and, when I left WPP, an agency within WPP, I was, I think, an assistant or planner, just budding into the industry. And what was really neat is in 2014, I came back to this network as a chief client officer. And it was I mean, for me at that time, it was a big deal. I was, moving into this, I was basically doubling my portfolio, in terms of the size of the people, the clients, etc. And I had seen and still remembered folks, so we kind of gathered together. The bistro, the entire agency came to welcome me, and I it was a special time. And what I did was I brought the old assistant media planner uh, business card that I had at that time, and they had already created for me the chief client officer card for MediaCom at that time, and I kind of, coming back home per se, I kind of shared with them the story of the in between. This awesome, budding experience that I had in my first experience, and then the opportunity to come home and how powerful that story can be, where hard work, dedication, and a journey can kind of take you to now chief client officer leading a part of our organization. For me was like a great story, and I shared that with the folks, and they were very receptive to it as well.
Well, yeah, it's a great success story. I mean, you leave as an assistant to go get the skills and the space that you need to come back as something like a chief client officer. Like that's an amazing story. And to
Yeah,
have
I
visual.
think what's interesting in it is, one, I do recall making or remarking to the team, especially for like those who were just starting their journey, about, yes, you can get here. It is possible. Clearly they saw assistant as the start of my role at the time. What they couldn't see is the hard work, in between and the length of time. And so, it was just good to share that, that it is achievable. It's possible.
Yeah. And how many other places had you been to in between that time period?
I mean, relative to kind of the our average, not many. I was at two other places before I came back home,
Yeah.
so it wasn't many, and it was over a span of almost 10 years.
Well, and so when you made it into the president CEO role, were there certain things you wanted to accomplish based on what you wanted to achieve as a leader?
Yeah, so I think once I came back to into the WPP fold, I've gone through a couple of roles, which is obviously running CEO of MediaCom when I moved into that role, and then into GroupM, which is now WPP Media. But regardless of the role that I was in, there are a couple of things that were and still are very important to me. One is um, I love the partnerships and want to lean into partnerships with our clients. It's what we are. It's everything to what we do, and relationships will be and are very important to me, us, and it's all about growing and being there, being present in those relationships,
Yeah.
growing together, achieving together. And so that's always been very important to me. I think the second part of that, and as important, is our people. It always important to me. I didn't want to be a CEO that's kind of locked up in a room, an office, unapproachable, inaccessible. I wanted to be there and people to feel like I was down to earth, that I cared. And those are two very important aspects that whether it was CEO of Essence MediaCom or now WPP president. Those are things. The people are very. I care deeply for the people and want to make sure that they love and enjoy coming to work and we're creating the best environment for them.
Yeah. And so,
And I think whether it's great times or difficult times, I think our life at work is there's some similarities to life in itself, right? The hills and the valleys, and how we go through that. I talk quite a bit about being able to be in COVID together with a client and building that partnership and being there during COVID is kind of like being through a tough time with a friend. And once you're out of that, you're able to say, you know what, Leanne, Leanne was really there for me when it was tough. Like, I want that statement coming out about our agencies and WPP Media and WPP with their partners. You know what? They were there with me when it was tough. Like, that's really important, and it speaks to the quality of the relationship.
shared experience, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so have you seen an effect of being present with your employees in a change of culture?
Yeah, I think you know it can be tough sometimes, just managing the different responsibilities of a CEO and sometimes people's perceptions of the role and of the office. Meanwhile, you're desperate to be a part or desperate to make everyone know, no, I'm really down to earth. And I think, you know, there are things that I've done that were a little bit more subtle, like making sure that I'm always walking the halls as much as possible. Um, uh, to during COVID, scheduling 15-minute coffee calls with um, anyone across the organization to make sure that they're okay. To just, remembering birthdays or someone who's experienced a death, or like all of these things are really important that hopefully in my legacy is having a leader who uh, can be successful, but also be human at the same time and care. And I think that those things should be linked together. And hopefully, there are people who believe that I embodied that during my time here.
Yeah. And so we talked a little bit before about setting up training programs and things.
Mm.
Do you want to tell us about that? Because I thought that was so innovative and very cool.
Yeah, so WPP Media created a program several years ago called Launchpad. And what Launchpad is, it's a period, a training program that lasts several weeks that brings people, individuals in that are typically not from the traditional educational path, so university and college educated. And we really focus and aim to try and bring people in from different backgrounds. And when I say backgrounds, I'm referring to diverse backgrounds. I'm also talking about high priority areas within our communities that need help. Bring them in, we train them free of charge. And then we give them a job within our organization. And for me, Leanne, that what is and was that was when like passion met, you know, the role that I play, and it was just like, wow, this is legacy. This is legacy building. The opportunity to tell your kids about how you're affecting change within your community, um, specifically in your industry, it's an awesome thing. And there are a couple of great stories that I have. I'll just give you a couple. One, I was I had worked late one night and I took a Uber home, and we're driving and I'm still having work calls. And I mean, it was a long day. It's got to be 10 o'clock at night. So I'm on my way home, and at times I could be a little animated. So I was in the call, like we were talking about business, and when I was done, um, the driver said to me, "You started the conversation by saying you sound like a big deal." And I was like, so then I was like, oh, dude, you have no idea. I am not a big deal. Um, and so he started asking me what I do, and so I started sharing with him, advertising and our industry. And he begins to tell me that he's recent immigrant, um, 2 or 3 degrees,
Wow.
and struggling to find a job. And so obviously I'm like, I'm I'm shocked, obviously, but unfortunately, you and I have probably heard this story more than we can that we want to share. And so he starts talking about trying to support his family and doing the best he can, and he just comes right out and he's like, I'd love if you could help me. And I said, so in my head I started making the connection between him and trying to get him in Launchpad. Perfect, right? Like checks all the boxes. And so I said to him, I got something for you. And you could tell that there was like a fair bit of skepticism. He had probably asked this question before, and maybe got ghosted a few times.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, sure, like just give me your number and I'll send you a note. And he was like, no, I want to call you. I want your number. and and I'm gonna call you right now before you leave the car, and to make sure that you get the call. And I mean I didn't find it funny, but I was like I appreciated I appreciated what he was doing, but I also appreciated that it was coming where it was coming from.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no problem. And so I showed him, and then I said, we'll be in touch. And he just kept saying to me, "Are you sure? Like, will you really call me?" And I called him. I got him. We got him into the program, and he graduated from that program, and he is working within our organization. And I was there for the graduation where he put up the certificate that we give, and it was like that's like the type of feeling that I think is great for giving back to the industry, because we want new thinking, diverse groups into our organization and the industry, because our product is thinking, it is creativity, and you want a variety of thought applied to our clients and our partners' businesses for that very reason. The second one is a story about just 3 years ago. I was, we were launching our arrival into where we are now, 155 Queens Quay, our office, and beautiful. So we did this huge launch, and we had the opportunity to have our global CEO join us. And so, in a bit of a kind of panel that we were doing, I just quickly gave a shout out to my Launchpad group, right? So I was just like, "Hey, shout out Launchpad," and they were like, as I always do.
Yeah.
And so when we were done, one of the participants within Launchpad walked up to us, and she says, she was just talking about how great it was, but she honed on me specifically, and there's literally like 10 of us there just talking, and she was just like, "I want to thank you." Um, and she tells us the story together about how she took her young son, left war-torn Ukraine,
Mm.
fled, fled, and now went through the Launchpad program and is now working within our organization. Man, Leanne,
Yeah.
man, I still get shakes, goosebumps from that, because I just remember it was so unexpected. And people were just like, you could see the tears coming. And I'm not like I'm not a crier, but I was just like, when I was like looking up in the air. I was just like, trying to, I felt it. And man, I still, I'm still affected about it by just talking about it now. And it's just like, isn't that what we're here for, right? Like I'm so grateful to to be a part of that. And there's so many people that are involved in that, in getting us there, in the creation of it, in the facilitation of it. But I am thankful for having the opportunity to be a leader of an organization that can share these stories.
That's an amazing story.
Awesome.
You had a crane operator too, right? That worked on your building.
Yes. So
Why
uh,
does that one stand out in my head? I don't know, but
he was graduating. He graduated. And so he told the story when he was graduating. He was like, "Yeah, he was actually a crane operator and working on the building, and somehow he got upstairs or he saw something in our lobby and ended up applying. And so he tells the story how he used to be he used to operate big machinery on the building, and then he closes it off and he's like, yeah, and so when I tell people starting from the bottom, now I'm here.
they make good
It's
money,
like,
those crane operators, though.
I
You know? Like
mean, yes, but
I wouldn't want
again, just isn't that what we want? We need, this industry needs people from diverse backgrounds. And yes, when I say diverse, I want to be intentional. It is the behind it was coming from different communities and backgrounds.
yeah.
But it is that as well. It is, I have a different experience which helps form a different way of thinking. That's really what we're driving towards.
Well, yeah, because you never know where innovation comes from, right? When when people are free to have their own perspectives with no boxes around them, that's when you
But
get the best results.
when I mean, I and that's why we are so powerful when our a group of individuals and their individual experiences, and I mean experiences from like even growing up as a child. How does um, a person that grew up in one of the worst areas in Toronto and that experience that he had within a poor community then come and his experience, his lived and individual experience, and then apply that thinking onto a client's business in pairing with other experiences from affluent areas, new immigrants, all of this, that brainstorming, that brain power is something special. And I think we should continue to push for that in this industry.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about, especially I feel. I mean, I might be a bit biased towards media because that's also how I started my career, but especially in media because it is so multimedia now. And
Absolutely.
it requires different thinking and different generations too, different backgrounds, different generations, because the approach is totally different. So
Yeah. And look, do I think we're making, and do I think we've made headway? Yes. I think that our industry is more diverse than it was 5 years ago.
yeah,
I think the real challenge for us now is we don't have that same effect when it comes to our more senior roles. Um, and that was kind of what was on my heart several years ago when I wrote the post on LinkedIn about uh, the feeling of being the only Black person in the room,
yeah.
and talking about how that affects me and how it affected me through my journey and the need to have more diversity in general, but also and almost more importantly at the most senior roles, which is still not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are a lot of people that can relate to that, um, especially women in senior roles,
Absolutely.
are the only females in the room. So I 100% agree with that.
Absolutely.
Now, you're also in the industry talking about AI, and it's such a hot topic everywhere. People are either for it and love it or like, no. So, how are you using AI?
Well, I mean, first of all, for me, it's not one or the other. Um, uh, you know, way back when, it feels way back when we started talking about computers coming into the
Wow.
the work world. Do you remember that? Oh my God. It was like it kind of feels like how these general fears appear and make themselves known when it comes to AI. And so what did we learn from computers really beginning to make their mark on the industry and our world, really? We learned that there's still going to be room for humans, which we questioned at that time. I remember.
Yeah,
We questioned what was going to happen to us,
it's true.
uh, and the workforce. And what did we learn? What else did we learn? We learned that where computers were able to, they're either helping us or allowing us to turn our attention in another area, right? And so I think some of those things and some of those truths still are held today when I think about AI. And I think about AI, um, now I'm excited about how AI is helping our people do less manual work,
Yeah.
keyboards,
Yep.
and more thinking, more creativity, more innovation, focusing on the areas where we really want our people to focus. And I think and then the efficiency, being able to take a brief and consume it, digest it, create provocations and ideas, moving from doing that in 2 days and having it done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And and so it is now what does this new process look like and the value to our clients. We're now just beginning to see the value of our clients. One, we're more efficient, um, in terms of the process and turning things around. The second thing is we can now digest and lean more heavily into asking questions and probing briefs so that we can pull out insights and provocation and have discussions around things that really matter. And then it also helps the end product because, as I mentioned before, I'm doing less of AI is helping us do less of keyboard and inputting and some of the manual things that have shackled us,
Yeah.
and allowing us to be free and creating more ideas centered around our partners and their products.
And even, as far as research goes, how it's able to take a set of, might be 4 or 5 different research studies and
Absolutely.
summarizing sort of what's the sentiment in this one and what, what I mean? Like to break it down so you can get a good sort of median on what's happening.
Absolutely. And it's about we're able to now digest data even as humans more quickly with the help of AI. Um, we have a platform called WPP Open, and it is It is really that. It is open. It helps us with great work for our clients and partners. It allows our people to be centered around innovation and creativity. Um, and it is open where our clients, our partners can all access and be in an open system together as we move a campaign from beginning to end. We're able to do that efficiently, and I think that um, much work has been done to get us here. We still have a ways to go in terms of how it evolves, but it is really an interesting time to be a part of this industry. It really is. You think about, way back when the Facebooks and the Googles started popping up, we were like, we felt it. But what we've seen over time is those transformational changes are now happening with less gaps in between. And so we're at a point where transformation is happening all the time. And so I'm really blessed to be a part of this industry to see the type of changes that I'm seeing now, and how it is impacting our people and our clients.
And so how is it impacting your clients in how they think about things or in how you used your time with them and the outputs that happen?
I think both.
Yeah.
So it's, as I mentioned before, it's helping by allowing our people to focus on high valued task.
Yeah.
So creativity, probing, the execution, to make it flawless. And I think it's helping. It's changing the type of conversations that we're having with our partners, probing questions, interrogating briefs. Like these are things that um, it's been really tough because, as you know, the marketing process and timelines have been cut dramatically over time.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the world that we live in. And so, the opportunity for us is to be able to take some of that time back and
Yeah.
to apply it into the areas that matter, for the outcome, and for the execution.
100%. Because, being probably a larger agency, you wouldn't have been as nimble as, say, a smaller agency. And because opportunities for clients come up really quickly to take advantage of that, like any kind of market data, and I'm just saying this generalized, any kind of market data or a need, you have to be able to act on that pretty quickly. Otherwise, you miss the boat. And I think that by AI helping to cut those timelines, you can get the messages to market so much faster and take advantage of, because it changes what is here today may not be an opportunity in a month from now.
Yeah, listen, I think, for me, my thoughts are it's not necessarily around whether it's a small organization or a large one. For me, it's now about the volume of data that we have at our fingertips and the ability to go through that data as quickly as possible now with the use of AI has dramatically improved our ability to A, digest it, B, create insights out of that data, and C, be able to probe, which I think is a very beneficial exercise to do with our partners.
Yeah.
And so the ability to do that has allowed us to, A, significantly change how the outputs of that process.
Yeah.
And I think we're now seeing how impactful that can be.
100%. AI is not a bad creative partner either.
No. Oh, well.
Well, just because of the way it thinks.
Well, I think that is an area particularly where um, we'll still need to figure out. There are some areas that are still gray that need to be worked out in terms of legalities, in terms of the outputs. I still think that that there's some work to be done around that. And as I mentioned before, the legalities as it relates to the client work.
Yeah. So by creative partner, I meant asking the questions that you don't think to ask. So
Correct. Yeah,
if you
agreed.
approach it with, this is what I'm thinking. I had this idea about this. Tell,
Correct.
tell me what I'm missing,
Yep.
right? Based on
Right.
the,
All briefs, all
yeah,
brief, media brief, creative brief, absolutely.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So what's happening with the government these days, Kevin, with the bill?
well, I think there's, again, another reason why we're in very interesting times. Um, I think several years ago, we thought that it was really important for us to be more involved in um, government business, and we thought that we could provide some good counsel and thoughts around how we communicate to our population. And that could be across Canada, as we do with our partnership with the federal government, or it could be for all Ontarians, as we are currently doing work with the Ontario government. And you know, I, the things that I find interesting. One is this is just another example of passion work, right? I think that, for me personally, having the opportunity to work on these businesses as someone who's born in Canada, uh, parents immigrated here in the 70s, and now there are generations of Canadians. We're second generation Canadians. That's really, I'm proud to say that we're helping and partnering with the federal government and the government of Ontario in order to speak to all Canadians, in order to speak to all Ontarians. Um, the bill, going back to the bill, I think that we are going through a process and we're trying to find out and get our ways to what the right answer is as it relates to continuing to support Canadian media, which we all, and I see you nodding your head, and I nod my head as well. It is important that we continue to support Canadian media because it's think about all the great products that we have in that stable. B, also think about the legacy for our children. Um, and so we are, WPP Media is working and continues to support with our clients how we support this bill. And as you can see and hear, there are a lot of changes happening right now with the bill and how that rolls out. So I think we're in a situation where we'll continue to see what the right answer is. I think that and expect that there will be some adjustments over time to get it right. I understand the intent and agree that the intent of supporting Canadian media um, ecosystem is one of great priority.
Yeah. It's a tough one, right? Because for a lot of people, individually maybe choice, comes down to choice. And anytime the government tries to regulate something about how you get your communication or what is offered, what you can get online, what you can't, it's tough, right? It's tough. So it's
Yeah, I think we'll get there. I'm confident. Um, we talk a lot about intent, and I think we're all clear on the intention and what our intention should be. I also think that there are great examples from around the world on that will help inform and will is informing our decisions. So I'm confident we'll get there.
that's great.
Um, Continue to see our ecosystem of Canadian media continue to expand, grow, and improve. And hopefully, we'll get to a place where we're not having this conversation. It will just happen organically.
It's true.
I, Idealistic, but hopeful.
Yeah, no, listen, I think that if there was ever a time when Canadians are on board to be Canadian, buying Canadian products, consuming Canadian media, supporting Canadian content creators, it's been the last 5 or 6 months, right? So
Uh,
the way we
Absolutely,
change, the way we choose things has changed. I think people are making more conscious choices now to support Canada.
absolutely. And I think with all things, there's a we can find a good balance. And I am really confident that we'll get there.
So, Kevin, last question. So, how, with your journey being what it is, what it has been, and being in the position that you're in now, what is different about how you thought things would turn out from when you wrote that yearbook post?
I mean, I think I think obviously when I was at that age, I didn't. I mean, you believe that you hope that you get there, um, but being in the situation that I am, and the position that I currently hold, and some of the leadership positions that I've held most recently, um, obviously there's I use the word grateful. I use the word blessed because I really mean those things. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to see out my some of the ideas that I had as a young 17, 18-year old. You
What
know,
what piece of advice would you give that 18-year-old?
um, well, one is uh, I would counsel that 18-year-old to be a little bit more open to um, advice and mentorship. I was just because of the area and some of my own experiences. I was extremely cautious. Didn't trust very easily.
Mhm.
Uh, Really tough to let my guard down. It's probably something that I'm even challenged with today. Um, so if I could work through that earlier, um, and just kind of letting go some of the experiences that I had that formed that lack of trust, it would have helped me greatly and probably be more open to mentors in my life, um, within my profession, I would say. Number two, I think that, I mean, there's not really a lot. I really am glad and I'm someone who has a lot of faith. So the idea that everything happens for a reason, I really do believe that. Um, but maybe, taking a little bit more risks in
Yeah.
terms of roles and even countries that I would work in. It was a little difficult for me just simply because I had responsibilities that kept me. I wanted to keep me near my family, so I think those would be a couple of things that I would kind of talk to even my kids about now. Go to a different country if that's where your heart is. Find new experiences and ask lots of questions. Ask advice. Ask counsel. There's so many of us that have gone through a similar journey. Why go through some of the pain if you can learn um, those experiences from other people? Would be some of my thoughts that I would share to my kids. But 17-year-old is going to be a 17-year-old. I might have told myself, I might have eye rolled myself.
Yeah, but listen, it's different now because we have so much opportunity to consume content of people and their journeys. We can learn from them, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, mentorship wasn't like a concept, or something we talked about a lot at that point. So that's why we can go back in time and say what we want.
Exactly. Which is why I asked the question, because if there's someone watching that needs inspiration, we want them to know like everybody's journey is different, but take what you can from this and move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot. I would definitely suggest and ask, even my kids to ask more about different experiences so that they can draw what they'd like from it. They don't always have to take it, but knowledge is power.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Kevin, for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain